And thank you very much for still staying with us here on the Joy News channel and also live on myjoyonline.com on the many social media platforms, also on Joy 99.7 FM. This is the Joy Forum, and tonight, this morning, we're discussing Ghana's illegal rosewood trade, sealing the leakages. And we apologize, LA, you may have missed a bit of what my colleague Israelai was saying there because of the sound, but in essence, we welcome you to this very important discussion, and we are delighted to be partnering with the Environmental Investigation Agency, the EIA, who have made this possible, and of course, this forum is brought to you by the Multimedia Group in partnership with the US-based EIA. Remember, the hashtag is Save Rosewood Ghana. And we'll be getting into the conversation very shortly. And trust me, we want this to be as all-inclusive as possible. And so wherever you are, make sure you interact with us using the hashtag Save Rosewood Ghana. I also want to acknowledge Fauna Ghana, and Fauna has also been very gracious to sponsor us. They offer excellent furnishing, and they say it is a great deal for survival with quality furniture made from the finest woods and after-sales service. Fauna Ghana is one-stop shop that serves the interest of all kinds of clients. Whatever you need, they will provide it. Solid wooden kitchen installations, wardrobes, doors, beds, among others. And we thank them for helping us also make this possible. I want to now introduce you to that documentary that started this conversation some time back. At the time that we at Multimedia decided to invest in it, rosewood was not something that you talked about. It was missing in everything else that we, as a country, we're dealing with. It was not on the front burner. Nobody thought it was a big deal. I mean, galamsey was the most topical issue until we decided that it definitely must be something to focus on because we're seeing the devastation in places up north. And I must tell you my own personal experience. I love the outdoors. My favorite holiday destination is still the Mole National Park. And then we learned that a park which foreigners from all over the world travel to pay top dollar to help our economy, it's itself threatened because of rosewood and other illegal activities. And so we sent a colleague of mine who dedicated his life to tracking down the story, my colleague, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. I want to introduce you to the documentary that he filed. That's a brief bit of it, just to set the tone for this conversation. Watch.
Trees could go extinct in Ghana because of overharvesting in the northern and savannah belt. Former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Inusa Fuseni, announced this ban.
Effective 1st January 2014, the harvesting and export of rosewood from this country is banned until further notice.
But illegal trade has not stopped. Since 2012, Ghana has exported over 6 million rosewood trees to China. This is despite a ban on its trade globally by the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. In some instances, the illegal trade turned bloody in Ghanaian communities.
They went ahead to the bush to confiscate the rosewood. So that has actually resulted to the clash between the two groups. And 3 people were seriously injured and 1 dead.
The fact that I'm able to talk means that I'm far better than when I was brought here.
As he himself said, some of the intestines out. So we had to quickly assess him and then rush him here to theater.
In July 2019, US-based Environmental Intelligence Agency, EIA, published an investigative report on how corruption and collusion among government officials was allegedly fueling the illegal trade.
To outright admit it to us, how they're using bribes. All of this is possible because there's corruption at every level, including the Forestry Commission.
I'll go to Nana. He's the Nana Eduse. He's the overall boss of the scientist. He's in charge. I just go to him, then I'll just sit down one-on-one with him. Maybe I go to his house, maybe we can meet in a joint somewhere. We have some dinner together, some lunch together. Then I'll discuss with him. That's how I do my business. I'll make him understand that maybe on every container, I'll give this to him.
Give him a percentage.
Yeah.
So with him, there's no requirement of documents. He just says issue it. They will just issue it.
Yes, order them to issue it, then he'll sign.
EAA investigators obtained a copy of a CITES permit for Rosewood destined for China, which was issued on the 15th of May 2019, long after the ban on export was issued. We have evidence that this permit was issued even after the container with the logs had already arrived in China. CITES needs to be enforced.
Subsequently, former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Kweku Asomachreme, set up a 6-member committee to investigate the issue. The committee cleared Forestry Commission officials of any wrongdoing, but recommended enhanced actions to stop the illegal trade. But felling and export has continued since. In December 2020 alone, an EIA tracker estimated that $5.6 million worth of rosewood was exported from Ghana to China. Local communities are bearing the brunt, with water bodies drying up and rainfall patterns, heat and drought worsening. This is threatening food security.
Long ago, we have rains more than this time. That's why they have been saying that cutting of the trees is bringing that disaster. We have a big river far away to this community, more than 12 miles away. Some will go there, they will miss. Some are lost, and they are driving some away. If you are not strong and you follow them, when they go, they won't come back.
Very soon, the forest cover being destroyed would affect productivity in terms of the yield, the soil productivity. Removing the forest cover is also going to expose the land to erosion, both erosion caused by the wind and by water. Taking out the forest cover also means that you are going to be starving livestock from the needed roomage that they will tend to feed on at the bottom of the tree cover. And dealing with the forest cover negatively as is being done is also going to affect the water table and water resources. And that is why this issue must be seen as a national crisis.
Key questions remain. Doesn't the state and its security agencies care about the lives of the people living in these areas? Do they care about the environment? Who are the masterminds behind this illegal trade? Why is no one bringing them to book? And what will all this inaction mean for the future of children in these communities? Only time will tell.
There's so many questions still left unanswered, and this morning we'll try and get answers to some of these before we leave here. This is a call to action. I want to now introduce you to the EIA, and remember that they sent investigators into Ghana to do that documentary and investigate the problem, which triggered the ministerial committee that was set up. Alexander von Bismarck is the EIA director, and he's been speaking ahead of this particular event, and he will lay out for us why they did what they decided to do to investigate the problem and get a picture of what the investigation actually is. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to Alexander von Bismarck with the Environmental Investigation Agency.
My name is Alexander von Bismarck. I'm the Executive Director of the Environmental Investigation Agency. My organization stands in solidarity with people around the world trying to improve forest governance and to stop illegal exploitation of their natural resources. The biggest threat to this is often voracious demand for timber from overseas. So we can sometimes help by conducting on-the-ground investigations into illegal logging, documenting what and who is behind the problem, and releasing the evidence. We also try to help by connecting groups around the world who are in this struggle and to bring new policy and technology solutions for governing forests transparently and for all stakeholders. The type of wood that has motivated illegal logging more than any other in Africa is rosewood. It has now become the single most trafficked wildlife product in the world, according to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. The demand comes from China for expensive antique-style furniture. Last year, West African rosewood represented 84% of this type of furniture in China, with the raw wood valued at roughly $250 million. With this kind of reward, you can imagine why organized criminal networks have been hunting this wood to the point that it is now endangered and has disappeared from many regions entirely. As a result, in 2017, these species were added to the convention that controls trade in endangered species, known as CITES. Rosewood plays a critical role in the fragile dry ecosystems across West Africa, and its unsustainable harvest leads to soil erosion and desertification, accelerating the impacts of climate change. Our report on illegal rosewood logging, released in 2019, showed that the efforts to stop the ecological destruction by instituting a series of logging bans was overwhelmed by the continued demand, which fueled corruption and collusion, which allowed the logging to continue. EIA estimated that from January 2012 to July 2019, over 500,000 tons of rosewood, the equivalent of about 6 million trees, were illegally harvested while bans were in place. The network used many techniques, such as fraudulent use of salvage permits, misdeclaration of species, fixed auctions of seized stockpiles, and forging of official documents such as the CITES certificates needed for rosewood to be imported into other countries. Following publication of our report, Ghanaian authorities conducted an investigation which validated some aspects in our report but left major questions unaddressed, particularly how CITES export permits were allowed to be issued despite the ban. It is our understanding that the CITES Management Office was not interviewed by the investigation committee, for example. Meanwhile, the environmental destruction continues, as the cutting bans are impossible to enforce as long as the trade continues. Traditional leaders and elected officials in the Savannah region, most hard hit by the illegal logging, are demanding action and have been heard internationally with a global petition demanding the end of the illicit trade in rosewood, attracting over 150,000 signatures. In 2020, 51,000 tons, or $36 million worth, was exported from Ghana to China. Amazingly, Ghana has the ability to stop the trade almost instantly. If Ghana established a zero export quota under CITES, China would have the obligation under the convention to stop any shipment reaching their shores. Ghana can also activate the European Voluntary Partnership process, which is designed to battle illegal logging, but currently entirely excludes rosewood, despite it being the biggest driver of illegal logging. Finally, Ghana has an extraordinary opportunity to build on its leadership in democracy and make all stakeholders part of the governance of their forests. We've been amazed by the energy of civil society and communities in Ghana who are working with us and using new tools to monitor their forests. But every citizen can be and should be involved. The global effort to save our forests takes all of us. To this end, we launched rosewoodreveal.org, which allows Ghanaian citizens and anybody to see how much illegal rosewood is imported into China from Ghana every month. We are also, with other NGOs, part of an effort to develop a full system of transparency and traceability for the forest, which is already beginning to be instituted by governments elsewhere, which could involve and restore confidence of all stakeholders in how decisions are made about the forest and how they are then effectively implemented. We think Ghana could jump to the front of the pack to show how a forest can be sustainably and transparently governed for all. Thank you. We are very grateful to be part of this dialogue today and hope it can contribute to the ongoing effort to solve this crisis.
And that there is Alexander von Bismarck. He is the the director of the Environmental Investigation Agency, and they did that investigations into rosewood problem locally. I now have the honor of introducing my panel members who will be discussing. We've seen the problem in a snapshot there in that brief clip from the documentary, and then what Alexander von Bismarck had said, but it's far bigger and complex than that. And that is why I'm delighted to say that I've been joined today by Dr. Ebenezer Jablete is the Acting Deputy Director of Operations in charge of the Savannah from the Forestry Commission. Doc, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also joining me is Henry. We'll be joined also by Henry Kokofu, he's the CEO of the EPA. We'll expect that he will join us shortly. Also with us is Professor Irene Ajil, is Associate Professor, Department of Agricultural Economics and Agribusiness at the University of Ghana, Legon. Prof. Thank you very much. Sheila Abaye Bachman is Director of Public Affairs. He, of course, with the Ghana Police Service. Sheila, thank you for joining us on this panel. I'm delighted to say that William Kwame Nwako Bando is a research scientist and project lead at ECOWAS Pari Rosewood project, also joins us on the panel, and he's been very instrumental in the work that the ministry itself had done in investigating the problem on the back of the EIA's investigations. And guess who else is joining us today? He is the former Lands and Natural Resources Minister. You heard him in that video clip announcing a ban on Rosewood. He is the Inusa Fuseni, and who is a lawyer. He's in private practice now. He's formerly was in Parliament, and now he's a private citizen. And he's joined us with his expertise on this. Mr. Fuseni, thank you very much. Always a delight to have you. I want to start with you, Prof. And I start with you because I don't want it to start on the premise that everybody else who's watching and listening to us understand what Rosewood is. I mean, to be honest with you, the first time I heard the word Rosewood was through my colleague, Opoku Gapo, who did the research, and I thought it was a flower. Honestly, because it starts with rose, and I thought it was a flower. Apparently, it's some form of a timber species. So what are we talking about when we say Rosewood? And why is it so sought after all over the world? We had millions and millions of dollars, billions in fact, of it export. It's almost as if it's competing with gold. So what is it?
Okay, so you described me as an agriculturist, so I'm not a forester. But what I know from my studies of agroforestry suggests to me that this is a product of value. So if it's a product of value and it is what we call growing in the wild now, but can be domesticated, I stand to be corrected, but that's what I have read. I take it from the point that this is a product of value, and therefore it creates a market. Any product that becomes valuable on the market will have demand and supply. And that is the perspective I come to this panel with. That yes, you are calling it a timber species. Initially, the society that God blessed them with used it for charcoal. They used it for furniture, simply. They used it for whatever, probably even chewing stick, we don't know, because it has medicinal properties. And that's what we do in our small societies. Then somebody comes in called an investor, somebody who is hungry for success. Sometimes you call them Asians, you call them Chinese, but it could have been me. Seeing this product of value, not in Ghana, because it's being used for charcoal, but in China, it's being used to decorate my BMW, for instance, or some center table, something else, maybe even part of shoe, we never know. And this person says, this is more valuable than you are treating it. So I believe that I want to just put it there, that it's a rosewood is a product of value. I'm told that it smells like rose flower, but there are fake or mimicked species that are also being called rosewood. It may be mahogany, which is not banned. I'm told that some of the species, the D. ciso species, are actually not the Brazilian or the types that are so valuable. And yet because the original types are gaining value, These other ones are also coming up. And I believe that the experts are here, we all put our heads together. But let me say that because it is a product of value, and it is God-given, and it can be part of the agricultural value chain, we should quickly think about plantations and now logging them and making money for Ghana's development.
That's a very important point we'll come to at the end when we start talking about the solutions. But still on that question, I want to bring in William. William, you were with the Rosewood project. Give us a sense of, he just laid out what Rosewood is, but it's on, yes. Give us your own insight. You've been dealing with Rosewood for a long time, investigating it, dealing with it, tracking it. What is it for the layperson? I like the charcoal bit. I was surprised when I read that in your report that people used to use it for charcoal. It was that simple. How does a product that was used for charcoal become so valuable?
So there's been a shift in value. Our people didn't know the value of the species. And someone comes in and tells us, just as Prof said, this is the value. To be honest, the global market for rosewood is $26 billion.
$26 billion.
Yes. $26 billion. There was a paper we used in some of the reviews for our write-ups, reports, and $26 billion. That's the market.
Okay, unfortunately, I understand that. Well, forgive me. Because of your microphones, I understand it's a challenge. Let me see if this works, because I seriously will need that input, because for many of us who are joining us, they won't understand what rosewood is, and we need to establish what it is before you can appreciate. Yes, I think this works. See if that works.
Yeah, I think this works.
Great, okay, you can use that.
So, like I was saying, the species has been with us since time immemorial as Ghanaians. We have a lot of uses for it. We call them, these sociocultural uses. And we've been using it for charcoal because it gives excellent charcoal. It has one of the highest yields, gravimetric yields, and produces some of the best charcoal on the market. So someone comes in from outside and says, you're using this for charcoal. Really? You could make a lot of money from this. And like I was saying, the current market, global market for rosewood is $26 billion. At the Tema port, I think a container, the last time we checked, the container was going for around $65,000 for a 20-footer container.
So if you pack,
we estimate,
you get $65,000.
yes, we estimate about, in dollars. We estimate, we estimate about 100 trees, depending on the diameter, fits into a 20-footer container. So that's the rough estimate, but it depends on the diameter. Sometimes it's less. Earlier, during the earlier periods when rosewood was being harvested, when you had really big diameter logs, that is big trees, you could have 70. But I know now those big trees have been felled and you have only smaller trees. So you're getting something about 100 or 110 in a container. So
$65,000 for one container.
And that's the and this is way less than the value in China.
So this is what you get here. But once you get to China,
yeah, but when you get to China, you're looking depending on you're looking at, I think around, I don't remember the exact figure, I think it's around 3,000 per square meter, per meter cube. Wood is measured in cubic meters. So you're looking about $3,000 or more per cubic meter. But there needs to be there's something we need to clarify. When we talk about rosewoods, there are about 36 species that constitute rosewood. About 36 species constitute rosewood. What we have in West Africa, the Pterocarpus species, are being marketed as substitutes. They are market substitutes for for dalbergia.
What's that?
So dalbergia is what we call the true rosewoods. Dalbergia species are the true rosewoods, and what we have here are being marketed as substitutes because there's been a complete ban on the trade of dalbergia. So dalbergia is listed on Appendix 1 of CITES. You cannot sell it, you cannot harvest it, you cannot trade in it. So that ban leads to the search for new sources, something to replace what we've lost. And Pterocarpus, what we have here in West Africa, is seen as a replacement to that. So that was just to clarify so we could better understand what exactly it is.
But what we have here is not one of those that is completely banned internationally.
It's not completely, it's listed on Appendix 2 of CITES. It's not banned completely, but in order to trade in it, certain conditions need to be met, which we didn't meet. And we've been trading in it since 2000. In fact, the first container of rosewood was exported in 2004. We've been trading in it since 2004. We haven't met a single one of those conditionalities to be able to trade in the species.
I mean, so what you're saying is that all these other countries that we're exporting to are partners in crime?
Well, that would be...
Because we don't meet, we are not supposed to export and trade it. But they're buying it from us in bulk. I mean, there's India I saw on the list, there's China, which is the #1. They're all part of this problem, I guess.
Yes, more or less.
Okay. That's a very good basis then to start from. Thank you very much, William. I want to bring in Dr. Jablite on this. Doc, I saw you agreeing with the points that he was making there on the issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to. I agree in a way with him. The species we are talking about is the African rosewood. The scientific name is Pterocarpus erinaceus. The Chiefs call it Creye. The Gonja call it Jenkile. And the Chinese call it Siso, or Koso, Koso rather. And it is found in Ghana, located in the savanna and then transition zones of the country. And the true rosewood...
Can you use this one for me?
The true rosewood comes from the Dalbergia species group. And like he is saying, he's been his harvesting and using whatever forms has been outlawed because it's been listed in Appendix 1 of CITES. CITES is the acronym for Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. And in the mid of the 20th century, the 1950s, the mid of the 20th centuries, governments of the day, that time, realizing the overexploitation of certain species, decided to have them listed for purposes of prevention, decided to have them in 3 appendices. Appendix 1, the gorillas, the chimpanzees, harvest nothing. Even any parts thereof are completely forbidden, except emphasis for purposes of research. Appendix 2 are those that you can trade in for now, but with care and permission from certificates ought to be secured because we ought to, at a point, apply the brakes, else we will be heading towards extinction.
So if you have the CITES, then it's deemed that you have met the requirements, and then you can trade in it.
You can trade in it for now. And that is how the system has been. And CITES is a global agreement among governments to ensure that these things are enforced.
So what it means is that the rosewood that we're exporting, if the receiving country doesn't see a CITES,
you dare not pick it up. It must not even get there.
Okay.
And it shouldn't even leave the shores of Ghana. It shouldn't even leave the shores of Ghana for what?
Without the CITES.
Without the
But once you have the CITES, you can
grow it. Makes
okay.
sense. Yes.
Okay. So what it is that, and if you see the countries that we've exported to, in 2011, with China was leading 1 million, euros. India, Malaysia, Australia.
I think it's around 2017 or thereabout.
Yeah.
Pre that, you never required CITES.
Oh, before that?
Yes.
Okay.
We were just moving.
So it was after 2017 the CITES became
an issue.
Came into
Therefore,
force.
we need to restrict the ban, have it listed on Appendix 2, and therefore the conditions that apply in Appendix 2 must. So,
Okay.
Pterocarpus erinaceus must follow under that.
William, quickly. I see you.
Yeah.
I see you picked up my to say something because I want to move on to something.
And I want to also put it on record that it never became an issue until, because like he rightly said, those days, the use to which we put rosewood in the savanna regions and then the transition zones of the country are one, charcoal, firewood. The leaves serve as fodder for ruminants. I have seen some of them, not documented, but I've seen some species, the poles that have been used as fence materials in the rural households in the regions. And that is its use until now. So it became, like Prof said, a commercial value, something that is of value.
Now to my next question. And Prof, if I may bring you in here on this. So we were already felling the tree, using it for charcoal. So the question then becomes, why the big deal now? Why has it become such a big national problem? We're having this conversation because we recognize that it has become a crisis. Government response shows that they acknowledge it's become a crisis because they've banned it, people have been arrested, and corruption has come into it. You started by laying out the value conversation. But I'm wondering, if we're already felling it, is it a question of the environment only that we want to protect? Because we're already using it for charcoal. Yeah. People were cutting it. There was no rules. It was fine. So why has it become a problem now?
Okay, so I'm a sustainability champion.
Yeah.
And therefore, I study the Sustainable Development Goals. It's not only about wealth creation or poverty reduction. It's also about climate action. It's also about responsible production and consumption. If you take all the 17, you would realize that, yes, we need to, as it were, slow down. I don't believe in outright non-exploitation of what God has given to us. I don't believe in that. What I believe in is that we all know that some people are dead who left these things for us, so we should also leave something for those yet unborn. And therefore, if rosewood is wild, it's a tree species, it means that it's part of the ecosystem. What I am worried about is that when we discovered its value, what did we do about making it a continual market product? By domesticating it. We have our Forest Research Institute of Ghana under the CSIR already. The Forestry Commission already has all kinds of units that they can collaborate with the FORIC to do further research to domesticate this. Within 10 years, you will get the trees logging and moving it out. So from 2005, when we started seeing this value, what did we do? All of us. What did we do? So I'm saying that the thing has moved from just a local value chain to a global value chain. We have recognized it. So all the stakeholders led by government should start with research and see how we can get more from this product of value.
Okay, so I guess, don't I see a challenge there, is it not? And William, I'll bring you in. If we take that approach, I mean, I guess I get a sense that the global push is trying to de-emphasize just simply exploitation to preserving what we have, sustainable.
Yes, but I'm saying that the product itself, we can have an unnatural one through agriculture. So what have we done?
Yeah, I want to hear the Forestry Commission's take on that.
Rosewood is God-given now, but can we not grow them?
Yeah,
we can, because plantations are even coming up in the US.
On that, how do we sustain it? Because we've already destroyed vast, plantations of this already. How do we restore that? But quick comment on the take for me, on the Forestry Commission.
What I should also say is ongoing currently. Number one, let me straighten this record straight, or let me put this on record. The African rosewood is a typically slow-growing species. We have upcountry plantations. We have 10 regions where rosewood is currently being salvaged. And we have plus 100 hectares plots scattered in all these regions. We are studied the dynamics of the species, i.e., mortality rate, recruitment, regeneration, among others. And what we have observed, or me personally, I've been to all this about this once it's in my operational area or my jurisdiction, I've seen that it is a very slow-growing species. And we ought to, with this pace of things, like Prof said, I don't think we'll be able to get there. And war would have phased out, and new generations must come to even see it. I doubt that. So, the technology is around. I'm happy Bando is coming from the Forestry Research Institute of Ghana. I am told he's a biotechnologist. And then we have protocols. Standard scientific protocols are available. We can talk about embryo rescue, species that are almost at the brink of getting dead or wiped or exterminated. If you are able to get this fruit and you remove under scientific condition the embryo, you can multiply this, and we are there. So that is
what has become clear in the last 20 minutes. We know what the problem is.
We know. Yes.
We know the value.
Yeah.
Now let's move to the real conversation. I want to bring you in, Mr. Fuseni. Mr. Fuseni, we saw you in that clip announcing a ban on rosewood. Why did you take that decision? What convinced you to do so? Oh, I think if his microphone is working, he doesn't need to share.
Is it working? Is it working?
Yes, you could. It's okay.
Now, first of all, let me thank the organizers of this forum for this very important national discussion. And to make it quite clear from the onset that rosewood is hardwood.
Hardwood, you said?
Hardwood.
Okay. Very dense.
So normally, rosewood is not used for charcoal. Normally. There are trees that are used for charcoal in the northern part of Ghana. Rosewood is not typically one of them.
Typical, okay.
Two, I say this because when you put charcoal against a container of 65, you might come to the conclusion that we are not being reasonable in banning rosewood. That's why I've stated this point. Two, rosewood is found in the ecologically fragile zones of this country. Put simply, if we continue to harvest rosewood, we will be exacerbating the onslaught of the Sahara to the north part of Ghana. Up until 2014, there was no CITES, there was no rosewood listed in CITES. But I was left in no doubt that the continuous harvesting of rosewood portended a present danger, existential danger for this country. In terms of farmers and the rain, in terms of devastation of the weather, in the sense that because the northern part is fragile, when the raining season is coming, the storm is intense. It rips off people's homes, destroy their houses, which are not already built to any standard. And so I was left in no doubt that burning rosewood was the proper way to go. Secondly, we got evidence that showed clearly that people will harvest and export rosewood if we did not ban the harvesting and exporting. In the sense that if you did not make it a crime to send rosewood outside this country, people will find a way to harvest and sell it. And that's why we coupled it. Even when we coupled it, people will travel as far as to Wa, harvest rosewood, and try to smuggle it into Togo to export it.
Yeah, you see Togo actually on the list of countries that we export to.
Good. And so, let me state again, rosewood is very important for the ecosystem of the north. Very important. Because the northern part of Ghana is a fragile area. You heard your partners say that it's a dry ecosystem. 2, rosewood is not normally used for charcoal. It has been, any time that charcoal comes in, you reduce the severity of what we are talking about. 3, rosewood was not even considered an economic tree by the Asians. The rosewood that we have in Ghana, until the Asian and Latin American countries banned the exportation of Madagascar, banned Darbegia. So they were looking for a substitute. That is why the first container of rosewood left Ghana in 2004. So it
2001?
And
4.
It left Ghana as a substitute to the rosewood that they needed. And so, for me, I think that even before CITES came to zero export quotas at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, we thought that that was the proper thing to do. Yeah. Now, people can talk about sustainability.
In fact, we'll come to that at the end. I think for me, it's part of the whole conversation we need to have. But I want to bring you in, William. He, of course, was a minister back then. Fast forward in 2019, on the back of the EIA's investigations, his, successor decides that I will also ban it. He extends the ban into transportation, auctioning, the entire chain, including salvaging, right? So you can't even see a rosewood on a track moving. It was banned. And you played a role in that investigation, did you, William? Yes, you were central. Help us appreciate, first of all, what you found in that investigations, in that committee's work, because you were looking at what EIA had done. EIA found, as we saw, the corruption, that it was being transported. People were still exploiting the CITES regime. Bribes were being paid. The political, corruption was also part of it. We're still salvaging against all the rules. What did you find? By the way, also joining us on Zoom is Mr. Clementa Park, and his constituency plays host to some of the biggest devastation when it comes to this particular problem, and he's joining us on Zoom for this conversation. Also joining us on Zoom for the conversation is Richard Dua, who is the chairman of the Forest Industries Association of Ghana. He's also joining us on Zoom. Also with us here, just joining us, is Joseph Isiakwan. He is the Chief Planning Officer, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Forest Directorate, Secretary to the Rosewood Committee of Inquiry. And so it's good that he's joining us. Yes.
Okay. I would want to, just before I touch on your question, to address Prof's issue of domestication.
Sorry, I'll come to that.
Okay.
I'll come to that later. Okay. But address for me what you found.
So along the value chain after the ban, we realized that the ban had a mixed impact. The problems were when you went to the communities, and the communities themselves were harvesting rosewood and putting it by the side of the road. And this was very common. From, Busunu, all along, you could see people harvest rosewood, just like they used to do, like they sell charcoal or firewood. And you have the logs there by the sides, and you could purchase it. We realized that when the ban came in place, those kind of activities decreased. So at the community level, the ban had some impact. And I think we also would have to thank civil society for this. With regards to transport, and now I'm looking at the whole value chain. With regards to transport, the ban, the impact was not as we had expected it to be.
Because people were still transporting it.
Yeah, now people were actually taking it across the Volta Lake. So you had several instances where people would transport the species across the Volta Lake, get to some point and transport it through Afienya to Tema. So it had become a bit difficult. Initially, it was possible to harvest a container of rosewood from Tumu. And we discussed this. You could harvest a container of rosewood from Tumu, no documentation. You had certain amounts of money you had to pay at each road point, checkpoint on the road. Each checkpoint on the road, and these were forestry checkpoints, police checkpoints, custom checkpoints. You pay these monies, and you could literally move your container of rosewood all the way from Tumu to Tema and load it on the ship. And you have absolutely no documentation. So the difficulty in enforcing the ban when it came to transportation was that now you had the means of transport shifting to across the, on the Volta Lake through Afienya to Tema.
But that wasn't complete because people were still doing the road and paying bribes. But the vast majority shifted, but people were still doing it because last year, generally, I was traveling up north.
You could still like. But
and I had just left a police checkpoint, and this vehicle was definitely going to pass a police checkpoint, and it had passed. I met others, which means that he had passed all these other checkpoints with the truckload of rosewood. They haven't bothered to cover it.
You sometimes there's an issue we raised in the committee report, and that had to do with the institutional capacity of the security services to check some of these things.
As in figure out whether it's rosewood or not.
Figure out whether it's rosewood or not.
So do you know whether it's rosewood or not?
Because you see, when we were working, we realized that there were several permits given to companies to even harvest cyber. Some were harvesting Papao Abselia africana. There were several other species. So if you're a policeman or you're customs officer and you're on the road, and this guy comes and he says, oh, this is not rosewood, and you have no idea what rosewood is, how do you enforce it? And he's able to provide you with some documentation that shows that the species is not rosewood. We saw it in Techiman. You had a container, a whole truck loaded with rosewood that had sheer nuts packed in front of the timber. And this had been transported all the way from the north. It was in Techiman that the forestry official there said he did not smell sheer with the second truck. So he stopped the truck, they opened it, and it was full of rosewood. So these are some of the ways in which you could continue to outwit the system. With regards to processing, the ban did have some impact, even though a lot of the processing also went underground. So you had many of the big mills processing what they had, but not taking any new stock. So the big mills would just process. They then processed all the logs they had on their yards and then exported it, even though there was a ban. But they didn't take in new stock. So you see, the ban had a lot of mixed impacts, and it's difficult to state the extent to which it managed to get things.
Yeah, I mean, but even that is a problem. So you have a ban that didn't have an effective monitoring and evaluation mechanism built in it to measure actual success. That's number one problem. Secondly, the CITES regime, I think you found that was also, what's the word, exploited or being abused, yes. Right? Didn't you find evidence of that?
Yes, so you had a situation where the MA, that's the Management Authority for CITES, who by default is the head of is the executive director of the Wildlife Division, did not have any process. There's no means, framework for monitoring or for tracking. He literally gets a sheet of paper that there's a container, and he provides. The process was that he provides the permit. So there were points in time where he doesn't even know where the container is at the time the permit is being issued. And these were some of the challenges we saw. Because you're issuing a permit for, say, 5 containers of rosewood, but you don't know so you ask, where are the containers that you're issuing a permit for? There's no way in which you can...
So that's one of the problems. But the other part of the problem was that the CITES dreams was being abused by those who issue it. True or false?
Yes, the CITES approval process, yes, there were some degrees of abuse.
Yeah.
But you see, these degrees of abuse were because of the inherent deficiencies. Let me be honest with you. So since Ghana signed on to CITES, we don't have any national legislation that should enable us let the law bite. Because CITES is an international convention. So we had a discussion that, yes, if the management authority of CITES is found culpable, what should be done to him? But then there's no law that can bite. Because ever since we signed on to CITES, we haven't drafted any national legislation to address that issue.
It is a reason why you made several recommendations. And I quickly want to run through them because I want to interrogate a bit of that, because we spent money to do this work. And we found evidence that, it wasn't working in many respects, as is articulated. So you recommended extensive interagency collaboration between the Forestry Commission, the police, and we have the police here, I'll bring Sheila in shortly, the GRA, customs, the intelligence agencies in ensuring that movement of banned and endangered tree species, such as rosewood, is brought to a complete halt. And I'm emphasizing that, complete halt. That hasn't happened. We know that. Effective collaboration between GRA, customs, and TIDD at the port of exit is extremely essential, especially in the identification of timber species before export.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is a very simple solution to the problem of identification. So put the people there who can identify the timber species so we can flag it. I mean, how difficult is that? That also hasn't exactly worked. The committee recommends that the FC, Forestry Commission, strengthens its institutional safeguards in forest monitoring and forest law enforcement at the forest gate, FSD and TID checkpoints. We're going to be interrogating what they've done with that shortly. The Forestry Commission must further strengthen its internal mechanisms to prevent the incidence of any corruption cases involving its staff. And there's even more, including dispatch of military. They says that recommends that a forensic audit of the CITES Secretariat, do a forensic audit of the Secretariat at the Forestry Commission of Ghana, be conducted by the BNI or any other state intelligence agencies to establish the veracity of the allegations, which is the EI allegations. And then a broad similar, approach has been recommended. Now, I want to come to Dr. Jablete. To what extent has this report's recommendations been implemented? Because a lot of the reference was to what Forestry Commission must do, right? Yeah. First, give us what did you do with this report?
Thank you very much. I took my time before I was called on to, before today, to look at the 75-page report, look at it very well. Our brother made a statement that the executive director, I'm not holding brief for him, please, far from that. He has signed something, and he has even no clue where that track is. May I ask? The executive director will never go to the street or the port. He does that through his men. So did you interrogate them? Did they not see or did they not sight in the track? Because the impression being created now, very unfortunately, is that it's just rubber stamping. Oh, this is it, rubber stamp. But when trucks are loaded and they are by the side, you must be sure before you issue the log measurement conveyance certificate, you should have inspected and then satisfied yourself that indeed the document I am appending my signature to is the correct thing, i.e. the name of the species, the dimensions, and what have you been, the name, the parameter, the track numbers. So I doubt what he put out there, that executive director at that level will just say something and be rubber stamping.
Okay,
I doubt that.
Give me a second, because he wants to respond to that.
Yeah,
and I'll come
back to you.
Give me a second.
The reason why I want to respond to this is that we made some recommendations in the committee's report. And this was and these were some of the bases. We admit that, yes, it is, there's, the executive director cannot be on the field. No. Yes. No. But we need to understand that there's the likelihood, and there were instances where some things came to the executive director, and even the timber was not in Ghana at the time.
Oh, it's already left the shores?
Yes. So the reason why we made some of those recommendations, because we recommended some kind of real-time verification mechanism where you should, before the MA, you see, the CITES Convention is interesting. It places all power in the MA.
When you say MA?
The MA, I mean the Management Authority.
Okay, which is, in our case, the Forestry Commission.
Which is in our case, which is in our case the Executive Director of Wildlife.
Of Wildlife Division.
The Forestry Commission is the broader institution. Okay. So the reason why I'm saying this is that, you see, before the species goes out, he has people he delegates. These people, he has people he works with. But the MA is the sole authority. There's nobody else. So if the MA cannot state with certainty that this truck I am signing for, this consignment I'm signing for, is in place A or in place B, then there's a problem.
Yeah, okay.
And that was one of the things.
And I think there's no doubt, and you found evidence.
Yes, I had wanted to address something the CEO of EIA said.
Is it related to this?
No, just because we interviewed the MA of CITES. We interviewed him. At that time, he was the immediate.
Yeah, because it was mentioned that you didn't.
Yes, but he mentioned that we did, but we interviewed him. We interviewed him. We interviewed staff from their offices. Yeah. And these were some of the concerns we saw.
So they themselves admit that they have that problem?
Yes, they themselves admit that problem is there.
Great. Okay, great. Inusa has a quick intervention. Very quick one, and then I'll come back to
what I want to say is that I think we are talking about the normal. And that is why this confusion is coming up. What happens in the rosewood trade or business in Ghana is illegal. Movement of wood, rosewood from whichever area in Ghana is not covered with documents. Who issues those documents? So yes, so it's possible because of the corrupt nature of the activities for permits to be issued for pre-shipment inspection when the container has not been inspected. It's possible.
Okay. I want to come up to Dr. Doc, so that's your response. But but the fundamental question I asked, I want to return to it.
Let's get back to it.
Which is, you got the report, we spent time, resources to investigate, affirm what EIA has found. They found a lot. They recommend I've read it. What did you do with it?
Number one, let me thank you very much. The committee, it's a 7-member committee, including Bando, and chaired by Honorable Benito. They recommended, among others, that the current ban should still be in place, and I think you are a witness to it. We have a rapid response team, a team that had received some basic military training in the Shire Hills, and they are called upon when situations are getting out of hand under the normal scheme of work. We call on them, they are in the various regions. So the committee recommended that we should deploy their services to these rosewood endemic areas that we have just done, inclusive of building capacities in the Kalakwa Resource Game, the Mole National Park, and that they have also done. There is this plantation. We have overflogged that debate now. We have done that. And the Ghana signed on to the...
When you say plant, you've not planted more rosewood?
Oh, yes, we are trying. But it's still...
No, in fact, Ghana has the most rosewood plantations, planted rosewood, across West Africa.
Artificial forest.
Okay. Yeah. And I think it's a plus to the Forestry Commission. Because on the project, as we discussed this at the ECOWAS level, Can we
quantify this?
Yes, I think it's over 100 hectares.
Yeah, 1 square kilometer.
Yes.
1 hectare is the 100 meters by 100 meters. For those listening to us, 1 hectare is the football playing field, where the people, the players really stand. 1 hectare. So 100 of that is really...
Is what you've planted.
We have planted, scattered throughout the country.
That will gladden Prof. I'll come to that shortly. But you're making a point. So you've done that also. What else have you done?
And then Ghana has signed onto the EU Voluntary Partnership Agreement. And it is meant to ensure that before any wood product is exported to the European Union, I think it comprises of about 27 countries. That is the major destination for most of our wood. Before anything gets there, you shall have passed through certain protocols: forest law, enforcement, governance, and trade. If you satisfy this, you'll be issued with a flagged, the acronym is flagged license. If you secure that, it means you will not be subject to any rigorous problems when you get into the EU. And currently, we have Ghana has rolled out the VPA, Ghana Wood Tracking System, and then the Rosewood is included, where legality issues have been solved, law enforcement, governance issues have been so clarified. It looks at development. You should, in the course of harvesting the species, you must not leave the area impoverished, but enhance, build upon it in terms of resources, and you met it. And environmental concerns have been expressed. So this is where Ghana is now, and I think we are on the path to sustaining the production. The last one, and this issue of collusion by the executive director, I read a report, and he said openly that he's opened up for further investigation since the committee was unable to cite anything against him. He said that.
So have you investigated him?
No, it will be the BNI and the other institutions of state tasked to.
So are you aware if that has been done or has happened?
I have no clue yet.
Okay. Beyond him, there was a recommendation that probe generally Forestry Commission officials across the chain who may be involved in corruption. Not you, but security agencies. Are you aware if that too has been done?
No, I have not.
Okay. You may not know.
But those I know are what I have brought to the fore.
Okay. Now, another thing. The major part of the problem is that salvage licenses, and Rosewood is lying there. People come and get a license to go and sort of take them, right? And that is how they use that as a cover to now do the illegal trade proper, right? Yeah. And part of the recommendation was that deal with that, do an inventory of whatever is there, and has that been done?
No, it is. There is a team currently in all the Rosewood areas trying to take inventory of whatever we have on the forest floor.
I mean, this was done in 2019. We are in 2001. They are now doing the inventory?
Oh, no. No, they have done it lot significantly. They have done enough. The records are at the commission, yeah.
So all Rosewoods lying there now?
We know.
You know?
And Bando,
So can you quantify it for me?
Oh, I would not, but there are pictures all over the place. If I know it is there. It's available.
Are you still giving salvage licenses?
No, salvage license. For now, with the ban in place, there is none. It's been outlawed since March 12, 2019, when the ban was slapped. Nothing has happened. So there was a statement made also, I want to clarify. We have the conventional rules from Wa to Accra or to Tema. Conventional rules from anywhere. And what we need to appreciate is that there are a lot of access in Ghana. You travel, access all over the place. When the rapid response team is here, they will change the course. The civil society, they come by road, and if they should hear that ahead of them, because they use the means of mobile phones to monitor the movements of all the security agencies. When they are here,
so they are on police.
They may go onto the water bodies.
I mean, you say they are on police scanners, so they can listen.
They can listen to everything around. So if they know they are around Buipe, then you should move onto the black voter. If there are some at Akosombo area, you must offload, and they use a lot of access to make their way through Afienya and then to.
Let me bring in Sheila. Let me bring in Sheila now from the police. Now, Sheila, how do you respond to that? I mean, at the heart of this is the police's ability to enforce. I mean, everything that has been said comes down to enforcement. I mean, I know your men do the enforcement, but the police eventually has the. How is the police faring in this?
Okay, it's in order at this time to give you compliments of the Inspector General of Police. So the discussion of Rosewood with the involvement of police, we are definitely looking at enforcement perspective as it relates to the police, because like you said, the Forestry Commission has some enforcement powers when it comes to arrest and prosecutorial powers. But police powers are wide, and we are everywhere. So although our reports show that the harvesting of rosewood may be happening in just about 9 or 10 regions, its enforcement is across the country because of transportation issues. So basically, what police know is that there is a ban on felling or harvesting of rosewood, on trade, on export, and therefore on its transport or conveyance as well. So when we intercept rosewood, so we do that by whatever activity we are performing. It could be patrol, it could be a barrier checkpoint on the road. You come into contact with lumber being transported. We know it's timber, but we don't always have the capacity to determine whether the species that is being transported or being dealt with is rosewood. And so often, we liaise with the Forestry Commission for them, first of all, to confirm whether this is one of the banned species that we are talking about. And also, we also do know that they have already issued salvaging certificates to people, some issued before the deadline 2019 that the Forestry Commission gave, such that they could still transport or evacuate or save these harvested timber that is already in some place or another. And so the Forestry Commission will either confirm or deny whether this is the species we are talking about and if it must be arrested or it should go through. And then we carry on from there. So that is how the police comes in when it comes to the enforcement. And by all means, we work with the Forestry Commission and other key stakeholders in determining these things. And where it has to be the police that has to take over the investigation and prosecution, that is done.
So far, if anybody travels, you see the police checkpoints. I wonder, you've talked about the challenge. I wonder if, and I was a witness to this vehicle that was driving. I was wondering what was happening here, but maybe, of course, the police officer couldn't know, they couldn't make the distinction. Will they help the police's work, for example? Because we know the popular routes. So some of your checkpoints, you have Forestry Commission officers possibly with you on location. Will they help your instead of calling them, and how could they facilitate on the easy, make it this easier?
In the regions where rosewood is common, there is that easy collaboration. For instance, when you're talking about conventional routes from Wa, for instance, there are times when you have both a Forestry Commission official and the police official at some points. But there is this collaboration such that even where there is no officer there and then, we have access to them to confirm. But when we are sure that this timber species we are talking about is not rosewood, there is no need to impound or arrest that kind of lumber.
I want to open up the conversation because I have a few, of our panelists also joining us via Zoom and also in the auditorium. Joseph Esiakwan is the secretary to the Rosewood Committee, and he's here, and so I want to bring him in. Shortly, I also hear from Samsia Wingobit, is executive secretary of the importers. No, I'll come to William.
There's a problem with the salvage permits.
I'll come to you. I want to hear that. I'll come to you shortly. Just make a note of that for me. I'll come to you shortly on that. Mrs. Shakwan is here?
Yes.
Great. Mrs. Shakwan, you were the secretary to the Rosewood Committee. Yeah. And are you still with the ministry?
Yes.
You're still with the ministry? Yes. So kindly update us. It's been almost 2 years since this work was done. What specifically, from the ministry's point of view, have you done to fully implement the recommendations that I went through?
Thank you very much, Evans, and I'm happy to be here to also respond to some of the issues. My former Deputy Minister, Honorable Benito, who was the chair, was supposed to be here on the panel. Unfortunately, he's with the minister in the field, and they tried to cut plane to this program, but they couldn't. I've been following the discussions. Fortunately, I have my former Deputy Minister, also the Honorable Inusa Fuseni, and some of the, Bano was a committee member from the scientific industry. And then Jablite from the Forestry Commission is also my colleague already. They have spoken at length on most of the issues. I agree perfectly with most of the discussions and the interventions they have made. I want to go by the recommendations of the committee as you spoke about them. EIA made made an allegation against the Forestry Commission that some of the officials are corrupt. The executive director was selling CITES permits for sale and all those things. Allegations were made. The committee investigated the matter and found no wrongdoing with the officials. However, there were a number of institutional lapses that we identified. Some have been mentioned already. For instance, the executive director issues the CITES permit, and then that is his work. And then the next stage is for the wood to go to the harbor. And this is inspected by the Timber Industry Development Division of the Forestry Commission. Sometimes they don't work together, even though they all belong to the Forestry Commission. The Forestry Commission has 3 wings: the Forest Services Division that supervises the movement of the trees and harvesting, the Timber Industry Development Division that sees to the export of the wood outside the country, and the Wildlife Division that issues the CITES permits in the case of Rosewood. So there's a disjoint between them. So when the paper is issued or the certificate is issued for the export, Wildlife ceases to move with the wood, but TIDD does. So sometimes that is what Bano mentioned, that there was that gap between the Wildlife Division issuing the permit and following it up. Another issue that came up was selling of permits. In fact, the Wildlife Division was not selling permits. There was some kind of abuse by some other companies. The committee found out that some countries were receiving rosewood from Ghana with CITES permit that had the signature of the Wildlife Division Executive Director, but those were forged. Most of the wood product went to Vietnam, had that kind of forged permits, which were supposed to be investigated by DNI. As I speak to you, the ministry still has a ban on rosewood, the issuance of CITES permits, issue of salvage permit is still in force. Nobody does that. And our new minister, Honorable Samuel Jinapo, also insists that no rosewood will be exported. So for that, I can say that we are going to continue with that in that spirit. Interagency cooperation, that was one of the weaknesses we also found between the Forestry Commission, TIDD at the harbor, and the customs, GRA customs. It has been mentioned, most of them are not able to identify the wood. Ghana exports various species of wood, and most of them go in containers, especially teak. And teak now does not go out of the country without treatment. So it has to be fumigated at a point. So when it gets to the harbor, the customs officials, once the exporters say, oh, it's teak, they are even afraid to open the container because it is quite poisonous to inhale the chemical that is used. So most of the exporters, that is what they were doing. When it gets to the port, they say it is teak, and it passes without them verifying whether it is teak or it is rosewood or whatever. So that was another gap that we term institutional lapses, not corruption, but lapses. So there was the need for training for these officers and that collaboration between them to be able to identify which wood species is being exported. Some people even export cashew and teak and even call it cashew from the hinterland. So that collaboration between customs is being done. They have had several meetings between the TIDD and the customs leadership to discuss this and then and I think it's working now at the port. You can hardly export without those things. Those are the ones that they didn't mention. Another corruption item that has come on the air all the time is that EIA said Ghana has exported over 6 million trees of rosewood. But Banwe, from the scientific point, inventory data available to the Forestry Commission shows that we don't have that quantity of merchantable rosewood in our field. If we want to export 6 million trees of rosewood, then the northern sector or the fragile savanna ecosystem should now be a desert. But we don't have that quantity. So the committee found that has been flawed. So what we found was in the range of 500,000 trees. If you look at the container volumes that have been exported, that is what was extrapolated. Okay. So you should have, the fear should not be that we took out 6 million, even though the situation is alarming, it is not 6 million. Forestry Commission is doing plantations, they've started the trial.
So if it's not 6 million, what is it?
I said 500,000.
500,000.
Yes, 500,000 cubic meters based on the number of containers that have been exported. And Banwe was trying to extrapolate that some containers have 100 trees, some have 60 trees based on the size of the wood that is loaded. So this is from official records? Yes.
Is it possible?
It's in the report. It's in the committee's report.
It is. My question is it possible that some are being smuggled, not through official port channel that you can record, which is part of what we are seeing? Because EIA says they're dealing with the receiving countries. And again, we can draw examples from gold. We know that the government found, when they went to the United Arab Emirates, that they have received 7 billion worth of gold. Meanwhile, we could only record officially 2 billion. That means there's a 5 billion gap. Is it possible that we are having that same problem with rosewood?
Yes.
That's why you have 500,000 and they have 600 million.
Yes, that was identified from the fact that we tried to look at the export figures and then match it with what customs has recorded. And they didn't match. Banwe can attest to that. Those figures
let me address the issue.
Did not match in that field.
The calculation used in arriving at our figure was based on the data EIA gave us. We need to address this really well. So EIA there was a fatal flaw in EIA's calculations. And we found that out when they sent us the data. EIA calculated the number of trees based on weight. And we all know that if you go to your local wood market, say you go to Angloga Wood Village or the wood vendor in your area, and you say you want 1x9, you are buying a 1-inch thick plank with a dimension, a width of 9 inches and a length of 12 feet. And these are dimensions for volume. Wood is sold in volume, and all the standard practice to estimate wood is done in volumes. The reason why it's done in that way is because of the density of the species. Species density varies with the species. So rosewood is more dense than wawa. Odum is more dense. So there's always a difference. So there's a standardized way of calculating for these things. And we use the data EIA provided us, the Chinese import data EIA provided. We use the Chinese import data EIA provided us to arrive at that calculation of around 500,000 trees. Okay. So the 6 million trees, there was a fatal flaw in EIA's calculations, and that's how come they arrived at that. Okay. But you see, that is not to say that...
Bando, just to say, this, the exact figure I have, according to the report, is 489,000.
Yeah, wait, it's in the report.
766 trees.
You see, that's not to say that we haven't harvested, because if you look at the inventory data, the inventory is the count of the trees in Ghana. And you look at the difference between the 2013 inventory and the 2018 inventory, we've lost close to 47% of the inventory of trees.
Of the rosewood trees?
Yes. Yes. In less than 5 years.
Yes.
So it's a very serious problem. Yes. But the point is that the calculation by the EIA was flawed.
Okay. I want to return to Mr. Siakwan. There's a question I need to ask you about the report. Yes. The report also recommended that state agencies, including the BNI, should conduct immediate investigations of some selected companies that have been identified, and that means that Mr. Bando and his colleagues indeed identified these companies that were illegally dealing in rosewood and exporting it to Vietnam with fictitious CITES permits. Has that been done? Have these companies been investigated? Have they been brought to book?
That I can say not much has been done on that one.
Okay, why?
The investigation has not been done.
Can you tell us why?
I can't tell why, because our minister then was supposed to arrange that with this. This is BNI versus ministry versus other people. So I can't tell if that investigation was done.
Okay.
But the minister was supposed to take that up with the Minister of Interior and the Natural and National Security to do that. These are matters of security, so they might do that behind the scenes, and we might not know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me bring Inusa. Inusa was there. Inusa, you use the security agencies to work also. I guess it comes down to if the companies are behind, they are beneficial owners, powerful players, because the ordinary guys can't afford to transport and export them, right? So I think really this is at the heart of the problem. If committee says, we identify the company, they give you names, investigate them, find the evidence, prosecute. That hasn't happened. This whole conversation is not going anywhere if there's no deterrent.
Exactly so. And I think that even now under Ghana law, you can no longer hide your interest in the company because of the beneficial ownership regime. Now, we all know that people who engage in illegal activities, especially in the natural resources sector, have powerful men behind them. It's not only in Ghana, everywhere. When they were tracking the elephants, so powerful people behind them. So you need the commitment of not only the security agencies, but the regulatory agency or authority like the Forest Commission, to really go behind and understand why they have not been able to regulate the exploitation of some species in this country. Everywhere that you will find that the regulatory activity is efficient and effective, they are able to stop those activities. So I agree that in a peculiar situation, probably you need to bring in security agencies. Now, Bano has told us that ever since I announced that the harvesting and exporting of rosewood is banned until further notice, no minister has lifted the ban. But we also know that records received, as for records received in China, indicated that rosewood was exported from Ghana.
In spite of the ban?
So, no, the question is, how did it leave the shores? When it is the duty of the Forestry Commission to do a pre-inspection, a pre-shipment inspection before the wood leaves. So who did the pre-shipment inspection? You see, so yes, the whole network of sleaze, of corruption that has permeated the system calls probably for a radical solution to this matter. If not, we're going to go around in circles. Now, why will you can't even issue salvage permits. Before you issue salvage permits, there must be activities impacting on the forest. You can't just decide that I'm going to issue salvage permits. They are regulated by law.
And this leads to the question, obvious question. So since the ban, evidence shows we are still exporting.
Yeah.
Question is, have we arrested anybody and have we prosecuted anybody since? Sheila, is the police having a record of any arrests so far?
I think the person I remember now is Alina Juan.
Okay.
Off top of my mind, I cannot mention other names.
Okay. Okay, so, and I guess, have we prosecuted anybody since? Anybody has the answer to that? I mean, Mr. Siakwan, do you know if Anybody has been prosecuted since? No?
Not one I know of at the port, but there have been a number of confiscations at the road, and then you can see a number of logs at the Achimota depot that have been parked there, showing that people are being arrested when they engage in this. If you go to the regions, Bono and Sunyani, you see their offices, they have quite a number of them dumped there because they arrested those who have loaded. But at the port, this is customs. I don't know of any arrest there.
Yeah, but that is, and Musa said it, that is really at the heart of this. We're going around in circles unless people are arrested, prosecuted, jailed, fined, whatever it is. We don't have any evidence now of a successful prosecution. We aren't going anywhere. I'll come to you. I want to go to Zoom because I want to expand this conversation slightly because a lot has been said about the forests, those who work in that sector. Thankfully, Richard Dia is the chairman of the Forest Industries Association of Ghana, and he's joining us via Zoom. Richard, what's your contribution? Because your association, you work in the forest, your Forest Industries Association. I wonder what's the view from the association looking at the Rosewood problem?
Good morning, Evans.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. My greetings to all listeners and viewers. I think this is a very good time to discuss this topic. Evans, I've listened a lot this morning, and there is one missing information, and we are not discussing where the rosewood is coming from. Rosewood is harvested from both forest reserves and off reserves. And information available to me shows that most of the rosewood which have been harvested around this time is coming from off reserve. And we know that by our land tenure system, the Forestry Commission, although who are responsible for both on-reserve and off-reserve management, have little control over what happens outside reserve. Outside reserve being people's farms. So the basic question to ask is, if I'm a farmer in the north or in any of these ecological fragile zones, and I'm felling my trees during land preparation, like farming, like the Honorable Minister rightly said, and I cut down my trees, and they're lying there, and I have the right to use these trees for anything. If I'm exporting, Forestry Commission comes in. If I burn these trees for charcoal, nobody comes in, nobody can stop me. The question is, what policy interventions are we bringing on board to make sure that in the first place, the tree itself is not even harvested? Now, on off-reserve, I can decide to fell the trees and even burn them for charcoal. And like Professor rightly said, this is a very valuable product commercially. So what happens is, when most of these trees are felled during farming activities, and then forestry on their monitoring finds out that these trees are lying on the ground, that is where the salvage issue comes in. So although there is a ban on salvage logs, Forestry Commission will continue to monitor even in the last 5 years. But as I'm talking to you today, now, at this moment, somebody is doing farming, felling rosewood, and it is on the ground. So the question is, how are institutions going to make sure that these trees are not even felled at all? And I think that must be addressed. Because once the trees are not being felled from forest reserve, which is under the jurisdiction of Forestry Commission, and there are some rose trees off reserve, where a farmer, no law bans him from felling these trees during farming activity, or nothing basically motivates a farmer to leave the tree because there is no tree tenure law in place. As I'm currently talking to you now, there is something at the ministry, it has not been tabled to Parliament yet. This issue will continue, and we all know that we are not talking about non-valuable thing here. We are talking about something which is commercially valuable. So I'm sure that I want to put on records that so far as that exploitation can still go on off reserves, and most of them, when you follow the TIDD records, were coming from off reserve, because from a conveyance, it shows the source of the trees. So if most of them are already being felled, then what happens in any human institution? They will find ways in getting it out of our country. So I think that must be addressed, and that is very, very important. And again, we are talking about collaboration here. I believe that we have one of the robust regulations and monitoring system as a country when it comes to the Forestry Commission. They have their TIDD, they have the FSD, and then the Wildlife Division. What is important, and for me, that has to be addressed, is again how we're able to harness the three institutions together to make sure that the TIDD guy sitting at the port does not say, it is not my responsibility to ensure that exploitation is done, harvesting is done. That I'm also involve the exploitation, the harvesting, and then the transportation as well. The FSD people should also be aware that it is not, you should not just say it's not my responsibility to make sure that the trees are not exported. I think we need to collaborate and harness the activities or the roles of these three institutions very well. And I'm sure we will have results.
Okay.
For now, this is where I want to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that intervention. I want to also bring in Opebia. He's the managing director of Fauna, and they manufacture furniture. I want to bring that in because it's important to get a sense of those who use the wood for products. What their sense is. Opebia, is Opebia here? Let me show by hand. Okay, that's her. My question to you is: you manufacture, furniture. Do you use rosewood at all?
Thank you, Evans, and thank you for partnering Fauna on this program. We do not use rosewood, and I think last week we visited Forestry Commission and discussed, off-record rosewood and the possibility of us, letting them know that it is something we could use. So if they are interested in partnering us, we would be interested in producing for everyone to know that yes, rosewood can be used. But in the past, we haven't done so, but it is our intention, if possible, and if it is, if we will be allowed to use it locally, because after all, it's being exported to other countries for the same purpose that we are producing here. Thank you very much.
That's an interesting point of view on this. The local industry isn't using it, but we are sending it all out of the country for foreigners to use.
Yes.
And they are making all the money of it, millions and billions of dollars.
Yes.
Now, question is, when we seize the rosewood, the salvage ones that we seize, what do we do with it? Well, do we sell it? We auction it?
It's auction.
Yes.
It's auctioned.
It's auction.
It's auctioned. Is it locally or?
No. It's auction to
anybody
who is interested.
Anybody?
It's open to everybody.
Okay.
If you're interested, you come. Open.
In the past, we made lots of money from auctioning, right?
Yes.
Millions.
Yes. We have done that.
So the question then becomes, what do we do with that money? Who is accounting for that money that we
you have not asked the question.
Yes.
The question is, they auction it. They auction the rosewood. Rosewood is not used by furniture manufacturers in Ghana.
Yes.
So when they auction the rosewood, what happens to it?
Honorable,
it's exported.
Honorable, rosewood go to the Forestry Commission Training Center in the Chao Chrome, and you see wonderful furniture, better finishing, the doors and everything are from it. Bando, you are with me. You have been to the place, and it's
I'm
fantastic.
not talking about.
So in the one of the recommendations,
I'm not talking about.
No, yours is working, so you can just talk.
I'm not talking about demonstration activities of the Forestry Commission. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you auction. Auction to the public.
You said, Honorable, you said rosewood isn't.
No.
Yeah, the furniture, they don't use it.
People can use it.
No, but they don't use it locally.
They don't use it.
So the question is when you auction it, who are those who are buying?
The beneficiaries.
Yeah, the beneficiaries.
Who are they?
Who are they?
So we need to address a certain issue.
No, but he has an answer. I want to hear him because of the Forestry Commission. Who buys them? Because you auction it.
Yes, it's auction.
So who are those who are buying them?
Entrepreneurs. Those who are buying.
You see where we have the problem.
Ghanaian entrepreneurs are foreign.
Oh, it's Ghanaian entrepreneurs. Foreigners, no.
Yes. You see, Evans, there's an issue.
Yeah.
There's elite capture of state regulatory institutions.
Yes. Okay.
And this is being done mainly by politicians. So you would realize that most of the beneficiary owners are politicians. I'll be honest with you. In 2013, I was in Gurumpe. I was there for a week. I observed 200 trucks of rosewood leave there in that week. I interviewed the Chinese.
1 week?
Yes. I interviewed the Chinese person to whom these things were being sent. And he told me he receives a minimum of 500 containers from that individual.
Wow.
Yes.
And you say one container is $65,000 in Ghana?
Back then it was cheaper. Then it was cheaper. And even in 2017, 2018, I've seen the same thing. As we did just 2 months ago, we did some work on the species across the country. So we've driven across Ghana, we've done some work on the species. But the key thing is that we need to understand elite capture of state regulatory institutions. And this is mainly by politicians.
And that is exactly the problem.
That is the problem.
So
if we do not admit this problem, we cannot resolve this issue.
So I've advocated that you don't put politicians in charge of regulatory bodies. So with Forestry Commission, you appoint a politician. If his party member comes to him for a permit, he's hard put. You don't put a politician at the head of Minerals Commission. If you want to stop galamsey, put a professional, not a politician. Or can you imagine the nexus? You put a politician at the Forestry Commission as the head, you put a politician at the Minerals Commission as the head, and you put a politician at the EPA as a head. Deadly conspiracy.
Okay. So that's the problem there. I want to bring some of my audience members into this. Jeremiah Seidu, who has a hand up. You have a microphone? Okay. You've been campaigning on this at great personal cost.
Thank you, Evans. I want to answer the question that was posed to Forestry Commission when they impound rosewood. Whom do they sell it to? They sell it to the same contractors they gave the permits to. There is a processing plant at the backyard of the Minister for Lands and Forestry currently now.
When you say backyard, you mean in his constituency?
Behind his house.
Okay, that is an allegation that I can verify, and so we have to be cautious about that. I can't verify that.
Sir, Yepala and the minister's house in the constituency is less than 3 kilometers. We impounded a sea of rosewood and showed a video. We brought in the forestry response team. We arrested 7 Chinese and 2 Guineans and took them to Damango police station. We were there for a whole day. Finally, Forestry Commission Bupe came and told us that they had a permit to operate, and they had a TIDD permit. The wood was impounded. When the committee, Willie, you remember when we went to Damango, the guy told us that the wood, he has taken them out. And he told us that he paid 30,000 on the 40-footer container and 15,000 on a 20-footer container into an ADB account. This is the person who took the wood. That's one example. Number 2, in Boli, I personally risked and arrested that as a Chinese woman, the police expert.
Aisha Wan?
Yes. Her agent in Boli. And the wood, I took the machines, some of the machines, operative parts, to the police station in Sola. The wood was finally sold to that agent of that woman.
Legalizing it.
When the wood was arrested on the Yendi Road of the Aisha herself, when we went in there as civil society, personally I was there. It was a conflict and a capacity issue that we recommended in the committee, The police said they had the right to keep the container. IRS said they had the right to keep the container. Customs said they had the right to keep the container. Where are those containers? When we were working on the committee, the Rosewood committee, we impounded over 500 trucks. On one time when we were on the road, you heard the minister at that time, that 25 trucks were on the eastern corridor. The Rosewood dealer there is called Ibrahim. He's my friend. Ibrahim told me that those containers will leave Tema on a particular day. And I went to Tema on a particular day, and all those 25 containers have left. Please, this matter and this business, if we don't bring honesty and truthfulness like Honorable Enus of Fuseni have said, and we want to continue to sit down and sing, we will not get an end to it. The government is involved. The landowners are involved. Once government is involved, last night, I came to Tamale today, 2:30 a.m., because I was tracking a Rosewood truck. I broke my fan belt. I had to bring mechanics, and the truck ran away and left me. My colleague who spoke on Skype, farmers don't cut rosewood. Farmers don't have chainsaws. Farmers go to the farm and do their farm. And they leave the rosewood and plant pepper, garden eggs under the rosewood. And they put only beehives on the rosewood, and they use it as medicinal. So if you say farmers are farming and they are clearing rosewood, it's not true. It is the permits that they have from Forestry Commission. Yesterday, 3 days ago, somebody has a TIDD permit that is expiring on the 21st of December, 2021. Where is it from? Is it the Bolero who gave it or Jeremiah who gave it? TIDD is from Forestry. When we were doing the investigation on the committee, permits were given. EIA was right. Permits were given up to 31st December 2020. And we had the ban from Honorable Enus of Fuseni's time. Who signs the permit? Let's bring honesty and truthfulness into this Rosewood calamity. Otherwise, we will not find a solution to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have, do I have Faisal from Wildlife in the hall? Where is he? Let me see behind. Wildlife? Okay. I mean, I want to begin to wrap up the conversation. So I see a few hands. Let me take a few of the comments and questions from the audience. Can you give the microphones, please? I'll just take. I want to hear from the lady. I want to hear from the lady. There's a lady. Please keep your hand up so they can bring in the microphone, please. There. Let me hear from the lady beside you first, and then you give it to you. Yes. Oh, that. Okay. Yeah.
So my name is Joseph Kobla Wemako, the Executive Director of Human Rights Reporters Ghana. First of all, I just want to say a very big thank you to Multimedia for bringing this program on board so that we can discuss these pertinent issues. Now, as I was listening to various discussions, I was so touched, and I felt certain things were not going on right. I am concerned about there is a ban right now. Since 2019, I stand to be corrected if I am wrong. 2019, there was a ban. So why was permits being given here and there? Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll get that for you. Let me get two more and I'll wrap up. Yes. Yes, the front, and then I'll take one from this location and I'll wrap up.
Thank you very much. And I want to also acknowledge the insight from the panel. And I want to particularly look at the issue of value that we've given to Rosewood. I feel resources, as they say, they are not, but they become. We have only seen the value of Rosewood in its merchantable commodity, which for me is the biggest problem we have as a country. Because before the merchants came to fell these trees to sell to China and to Asia, the people were getting other intangible benefit of it serving as windbreaks, it's helping them with their pollination and all of that. I can tell you, we have an office in Damango. We've been working there for more than 10 years. Immediately there was a surge in rosewood harvesting. We saw a significant decrease in honey production within that particular region. And it's very, very connected to people's livelihood and also food security issues. You cannot only value rosewood only because of the timber you get from it, which for me is the biggest problem. Then again, when trucks are carrying rosewood, they do not drive at 60 kilometers per hour. The most I've seen is 30 kilometers per hour. With all the responses that I've been hearing about how the police were working, the Forestry Service Division has been working and all of that, I feel, excuse me to say, some of the responses are just textbook responses being given to issues that are really facing us, and I believe that we have not committed ourselves to really dealing with the nitty-gritties. It doesn't take more than a week to train the police on how to identify rosewood. It's just so simple to do that. We have been dealing with rosewood since 2008. That's more than 10 years now. So how long will it take for us to build institutional capacity to identify rosewood on the road and even at the port? I think we need to get our acts together and deal with it. I just feel that we're just playing around the same issue because the leadership do not want to deal with it because certain people continue to benefit from the rot in the system.
Okay, thank you. I'll take the view here, and then I'll go. I won't go back. It's that. Okay, no. Let me hear him. Sorry, let me hear him. His hand has been up. Okay, I'll come to you, and I'll end at the back.
Thank you very much, Evans. I just want, with my experience at the port, as an executive secretary to Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana, the only way we can do as a country to curtail this issue, one is, why should someone fell the tree far away in the northern region, load it, get to Tema before you can do documentation? So the one sitting here, how do you think that he will determine which species they are bringing from there? So I strongly believe that it should be done there. There should be a joint before the container is loaded, and there should be a seal straight away from wherever the species, be it teak or mahogany or whatever. It should be done in that region or in that district. If it is at the farm area, that is why you should have the joint, the National Security Operative, the police, the Forestry Commission, the wildlife. All these people should be there before it's being loaded. Then there's a seal. Then everyone has taken their seal notice. So in that case, if the truck is coming and you get to the port here, everybody knows. Definitely, you cannot bribe everybody. Someone will be honest to say that, look, I'm not ready to take part in this inspection. Because at the port, you know that we have a joint inspections team where before such if container is being tagged, before that container is being examined, custom, preventive, national security, BNR, they are all there. If it requires Food and Drugs Authority, if it requires Standards Authority to be there, all of them at one point is being done. So I strongly believe that the Forestry Commission needs such a committee in place to curtail all this, so that from there, seal is being taken, seal numbers are all being signed, then forwarded to the whoever is. So as soon as it get in, even including preventive, customs preventive is supposed to be part when they are loading such a thing. Then the other aspect is you have to involve the shipping companies as well, the shipping lines. For that matter, we have swag. So that any shipping line that takes rosewood out, knowing that it's been banned in the country, then your license, there's likelihood of your license being withdrawn. Because if you are going to investigate, you should be able to know which shipping line took the cargo out of this country. Yeah. And that shipping line can be reprimanded for flouting our laws. This is my short advice for the committee.
Thank you very much. I'll take the.
All right, thank you very much. I am Prince Okuma from University of Ghana. I am the president of the International Association of Students in Agriculture and Related Sciences. And I'm here with my constituents. First of all, I will equally want to thank Joy FM and then the organizers of this particular forum or program. Since this is an issue or a matter of a national concern. And as agriculturists, it is very prudent that we equally make our input in this very issue. Well, the concern or the question I want to pose to our panelists is that before we even look at how to stop people from taking or exporting rosewood from the country, I think it's quite expedient that we look at the grassroots or the starting point where the rosewood is even felled before it's conveyed to various checkpoints and exported. So by so doing, the question I want to ask is that the people who happen to be the stakeholders, that is the Forestry Commission, the security services, the customs, among others, what kind of conversations or engagements have they undertaken with the various chiefs in these various jurisdictions where rosewood is found? Because I know very well that the chiefs equally have very key roles to play, because no one can just enter into someone's field or land and start cutting down rosewood. It means the chief in that particular land is equally aware, or he's much privy to that particular incident. So how have they engaged the chiefs concerning the felling of rosewood in their jurisdictions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to take a final comment from the back or question.
My name is Brighton Keason, Managing Director of In God's Service Wood Processing. I saw this forum on air, and I thought that I should be here to contribute. I want to apologize to the people of Ghana in the first place, because I was the one who took samples of rosewood to China. And I was the first person who took rosewood permit from Forestry Commission and started exporting rosewood to China.
Which year was this?
In the year 2003.
Okay. I think it was mentioned 2004, 2003.
Yeah. The records are the Forestry Commission.
Yeah.
The name is not even rosewood. The name is Koso. That time is Abebrese's time. But the color and the nature resembles rosewood. So at that time, myself, Mr. Abebrese, and the operations people name it rosewood. Our problem about rosewood is politics. The politicians are not giving the technocrats the free hand to apply our laws. We have good laws that can control everything. People go and cut these trees without felling permit. And politicians at the ministry and sometimes the seat of government instruct Forestry Commission to issue salvage permits to go and collect these trees. So the one felling the tree, the one issuing the permit, the one buying, conveying, and exporting are all guilty of our laws. Because if a thief goes to steal and cut, and you don't instruct Forest Commission to issue a permit to regularize it for it to be collected to sell, he will not be encouraged to go and do more felling. So the one who fells, the one who issues the permit, the one who collects and sells are all guilty. They are all guilty. We are not involved so much in politics. After this permit, NDC, MPP, they come, they don't give us any permit, we don't care. But Honorable Inus Afuseni's time, they gave permits to 15 companies from the seat of government to go and salvage rosewood. They paid monies to community heads. They paid stampage to Forest Service Division. They paid money to government covers TIDD. And one day at a time, he announced that it has been banned. Millions of cedis that people paid to government chests. Some of the trees were lying at Nsawam, all around the road to the north, and some in the port, and it went waste. They gave the permit for the people to go and salvage. They paid monies holding receipts from Forestry Commission for stampage, FSD. They were holding receipts for TIDD exports. And you stopped them. Meanwhile, you gave them the permit to go and collect. If we do the right thing, the law says that give felling permits to qualified contractors who are in the business of timber and understand sustainable forest management principles. And then let the Forestry Commission supervise the felling according to our laws. Don't leave people who don't know anything about harvesting to go in and do the felling and then destroy the environment before you issue the permit that those trees to be collected. By that time, the environment has been destroyed. Felling must be done according to sustainable forest management principles by issuing felling permits to qualify people. They sign social responsibility with the chiefs, and everything is regulated, like one of the contributors, scientifically from the felling, according to our laws.
Thank you.
And then it's taken to the port.
Thank you very much. Did I get your name?
Brighton Kiasen. I have a document here for you.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll take it. But I want to get the thoughts of my panelists as we wrap up. Final thoughts. Mr. Hussein, I want to start with you because your name was mentioned.
Let me thank you so very much for revealing to me that 15 companies were involved. There were wait. There were 6 companies. I gave salvage permits to 6 companies. So I now know that there were 15. 2, I gave them salvage permits for Bui. They were doing the Bui Dam. 3, I knew how many logs were involved. 4, it came to my attention that those 6 companies were using the salvage permits to go and fell. So my action, ban it. Because the salvage permits that had been given to them were intended to salvage logs from Bui, and whatever logs they were now trying to convey could not have come from Bui. So that was the reason why the ban, because it was a spiral. They will continue to harvest. And you know, you were in the business. If you come for permits, salvage permits, you indicate the logs, the number of logs that are there to be harvested, to be collected. So I knew exactly that there were 6 companies and they were to salvage from Bui. And what happened was they went and they were felling. So I had to ban it. Now, yes, we might be losing many good advantages if we harvest rosewood. We go for, by the name Rosewood because that is now the generally accepted name. We all know his name. Why? Because science shows that wherever you have rosewood, there is a possibility of underground water. Now, so if you harvest, if you cut your rosewood, and your rosewood takes more than 100 years to mature to be harvested. And we are battling with climate change and climate change mitigations. So farmers will lose the ability to even predict whether the area that they want to establish their farm might have underground water. They will lose it. And so that is why we have to fight it. 3, I agree entirely with you. The president of our Greek Students Association of Legon. I mean, Legon, there's only one university, and that's the University of Ghana. Now, you see, how do you go to harvest rosewood without the involvement of the chiefs? In fact, I won't mention the area, but the gentleman, the CSO guy who spoke, knows this area. A chief was actively involved in the harvesting of rosewood. It's a natural resource. Tell me, Prof. Bano, where on earth can you harvest or extract a natural resource without a permit? Where? There's nowhere on earth. Because it impacts the environment. It impacts the environment.
So
you need a permit. There's nowhere on earth that you can exploit natural resources without a permit, because it impacts the environment. You need a permit to be able to regulate it and mitigate its impact on the environment. So unregulated exploitation of natural resources is disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah. I want to bring in now William, and very briefly, because we need to wrap up on this. What must change now? I mean, we've done your report, your recommendation. We've seen part of it has been implemented, a lot of it hasn't been. What must change from today going forward?
It's interesting. There must be a new narrative in the North. We cannot expect to do things as usual and get different answers or get a different response. We'll continue to get the same response. As it stands now, the current practice is unsustainable. Within 5 years, we've harvested close to, from the records, from the inventory reports, the 2 inventory reports, we've harvested almost 50%, 40-something% of the stock we had. So it's clear it's unsustainable within 5 years. If we give ourselves 2 decades, I'm sure we will not have any rosewood of commercial value in Ghana. So it's clear what we are doing is unsustainable. Personally, I think we need to maintain the ban. We need to develop a new narrative for livelihood generation in the North. A couple of days ago, the Institute was involved in the development of a proposal that suggests, that wants to look at how we can still make money from our savanna without harvesting trees. And we think there are many options that can necessarily give us a lot of money without being destructive. You can still extract stuff from the trees in the savanna without destroying them. And I think that is where the sustainability narrative must come to play.
Okay, on that sustainability note, I want to bring Prof in, because that has been Prof's main point today. Prof, wrap it up for me. on the options going forward?
I still maintain that once there's interest to create wealth with the Rosewood, we should look at the business models that are available. Because you keep saying that it will take a very long time to, get it as an agricultural product. But you have already suggested that it is slow growing, but it will grow. Is that not it? So I'm saying that do not shut your mind to it. The thing is on the market, and that is why people are risking. You see, it's profitable, and that's why people are risking. So let's continue to talk. And now, I don't know what the leadership in terms of Forestry Commission, the police, and all the people we have mentioned can do. But I maintain that any product that comes onto the market, if it should be sustained, then the legal framework should work. But we should continue to explore the agriculture option. That, for me, is the only way. Thank you.
Okay. And before I come to the Forestry Commission and Sheila, I need to indicate that you've been engaging with us very aggressively on Twitter, to be very specific. And thank you all for joining us. We are trending currently at number 2 in Ghana, and with the hashtag #SaveRosewoodGH, with more than 2,000 tweets so far. And I want to share a few of your messages there. Ajimandria says logging has contributed to the desertification crisis in the country, and he screenshot one of the problems, that is Ghana exports rosewood timber illegally to China. We have Fauna Ghana also participating in the conversations, and then we also see, according to the Environmental Investigations Agency analysis, the equivalent of approximately 6 million Ghanaian rosewood trees have been exported to China. Of course, that has been a subject to some controversy the Forestry Commission, the ministry has clarified. This one is so Oridua says, if we don't protect Ghana now, our children will have nothing to call their own. Hashtag #SaveRosewoodGH. It's key. Ira says you need to be part of this forum, of course, galvanizing people to listen. Kwabena says we are losing billions of dollars in this rosewood trade owing to corruption and institutional lapses. Hashtag #SaveRosewoodGH. We'll continue the conversation right after here on the many social media platform. Don't stop, because we need to put pressure on the system for action. Let me come to you, Dr. Jablite. So I think we've laid out the problem. We've seen where the gaps are. I need commitment from you now. We know where still areas that we still need to work on. What is going to change from the Forest Commission's point of view going forward?
I would thank you very much, Evans. Very general statement I'll make now. We've established from here or through the discourse that it is possible to have plantations of rosewood in Ghana, and that we must vigorously pursue. I think the Forestry Research Institute of Ghana, the biotechnology department or outfit, has what it takes to bring this into being and to make this happen. So we will do that. Is one sure way. I also want to place on record that the harvest of rosewood is at the community level. No individual. The community members, they do that. So what I'm saying is that these opinion leaders within the communities, they know who are harvesting this product illegally day and night. So they should help check these menace at the community level. And I think these are the issues. It is doable, and we all must support the drive so that we'll put this behind us. And let us also place on record that we only are talking about tangible benefits. We have ecosystem services like our brother from Damongo mentioned. He enumerated a lot. And these things cannot be quantified. You talk about the water bodies drying up as a result of the lack of any vegetation cover, increasing evapotranspiration over these areas. We have heard, we've seen what has been happening. We are just told, they are not been told, but we have seen that there's amply evidence that savanna, the southward drift of the savanna is real. I have lived in the north for almost 7 years as the regional manager of the Forest Services Division, and I know what I am saying. And if we don't take time, all hands on deck, so that we bring back the lost tree cover up north.
Okay.
That is all I should say for now.
Thank you very much. Sheila, I want you to end because obviously this all comes down to enforcement.
Okay,
so give us some assurances as we leave here.
While preparing to join this forum, I spoke to commanders in the communities where there are rosewoods. And you realize that the ban on the felling of such trees, trading and exportation, has affected communities in such a way that security and the safety of communities are also affected. Prior to coming here, one of the things I was told that traditionally the rosewood was being used for was charcoal, which has been disputed here. But at least it was being used for other local things. I know that this discussion will lead to actions being taken. And what I want to say is that when those actions are being taken, we should think about the effect of taking those actions on security of communities where traditionally the rosewood or the species that we are calling rosewood were used for one thing or another, and try to resolve them so that we can have communities safe for the whole country also to be safe and secured. So that's what I'll say with regards to that. But on enforcement, what the law will say and how practical it will be is what will enhance enforcement. So in taking all those decisions, we should look at the practicality of the decisions we reduce into law for enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to the panelists and to yourselves as well. Thank you all for participating, and to the thousands who participated on Twitter and social media pages. And thanks for pushing this so we are trending at number 2, which means that the world is paying attention to what is happening here. And I'm grateful that our panelists joined us with your thoughts, and also yourselves helping us navigate these complex matters. It is very obvious that the solutions are known. You've heard them. You've heard the commitments. It is our turn now to follow up and put pressure on the Forestry Commission, the ministry, the police, the politicians. Will be naming and shaming as we go forward. It is clear that the companies that were involved have been identified in the report. I wonder why the report didn't even name them, so we could shame them. As we learned, it's very possible that the BNI have not done investigations about these companies. And we have also established that since the ban, exports is happening millions and billions of dollars, and yet nobody has been prosecuted. That clearly is a gap that needs to be addressed. Unless we can deal with the people, arrest them, prosecute them, punish people, there will be no deterrent. And that's why we are going to continue this campaign to save Ghana, really. I mean, because you watch what is happening with the Galamsey. This is how it started, by the way. This is how it started. We weren't talking about it until we woke up one morning and we're told if we don't deal with it, we'll run out of drinkable water. And so we started, and now it's become a vigorous, aggressive campaign we are putting a lot of resources into. This is exactly what's going to happen with Rosewood if we sit unconcerned. William had said, in 5 years, if we don't implement everything that we've said here, we'll run out of rosewood completely. Do you know what's going to happen to the ecological zone of the north? It will collapse. It's going to lead to job losses because farmers really rely on the ground, the fertile soil that the rosewood shields them from and helps them, grow their crops. It's going to be devastating. If you ever seen rainstorm in the north, it's nothing compared to what you have down south because there's vegetation. So this is life or death for many people up north, and that is why we cannot let this slip. I'm delighted that we've had a conversation, and we're going to be following up on this. Thank you very much. And till we hear again